So I want to talk about the housing market, and you look at the price cuts in listings, asking prices that are happening in place after place around the country. There are certain cities that are seeing clear signs of having overshot with the run-up in housing prices. And there's some in Idaho and Texas. There are scattered spots in the country where things just got way ahead of themselves with housing. And there's a buyer's strike. And the buyer's strike is widespread around the country. So the question is, what does that mean? Because anybody who was in the housing market 15 years ago completely has housing PTSD. I know PTSD is not supposed to be made light of, so I'm trying to think of a different term for it. There's another term, generals fighting the last war, that there's this feeling of impending doom in a lot of people that home prices are going to repeat what happened 15 years ago, and it is not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. There will be spots that will see softness in pricing. Softness in pricing does not mean a marketplace collapse. It could mean that prices in areas that got too pumped up could fall 5 to 10%. If I was to put a number on it, just a guess of a number. And again, that's a guess, because even people who are economists that work solely in the housing industry are trying to put numbers to this, but for the most part, we're not going to have any kind of collapse. No, let me say that differently. We're not going to have a collapse in the housing market, and there are two major factors. One, we have a shortage of housing in the United States today, not a surplus. Two, we did not have people who, so I'm going to give three. I just thought of a third one. You know, it's funny in TV, they'll say the four things, blah, 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 and then I'll tell seven, or I'll tell two. It's just my mind doesn't think the way they want you to in TV. Anyway, so we've got, let's go to the most important second factor. I'll stick with two. I was going to get into three, and then I would say 4 and 5 and 6. Okay. Mortgage rates were way, 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 way low. And now they're roughly twice the low point. All right. If I have a loan on a home like Krista here at 1.875%,
yep,
15-year fixed,
mm-hmm.
Okay, she's not moving. Even if there was a house that she and her husband loved and they were like, wow, wouldn't it be great to live in that house, and the price, we could afford it. But we'd have to give up our 1.875%. Not going to happen. So the inventory of homes is going to remain tight, and you're not going to have the velocity of the move market that there normally is. Oh, and there is one other factor, speaking of mortgages. 15 years ago, there were the loans that were made no matter what. As many as you wanted, no down payment, nothing. You buy as many houses as you wanted. No such thing happened this cycle. So we had a lot of speculative building, a lot of speculative purchasing with no skin in the game, no down payment, nothing. That was another factor that led to the collapse in housing prices 15 years ago. Nothing like that's going to happen this time. So yes, we may see some softness. We may see some price declines in a small number of markets that got really overheated, but the housing market is going to be fine, which means for buyers, this remains a very difficult time for you at the elevated interest rates. And so when I think this through, I think it makes the most sense now to wait till the Federal Reserve finishes its moves with interest rates, rebuilds credibility that inflation is under control, because then mortgage rates will decline. The Federal Reserve does not control mortgage rates. Mortgage rates go to their own drummer, follow their own drummer. But when the Federal Reserve regains the public's confidence in the business sector, the financial sector, and with you and me as consumers, and we're not worried about inflation anymore, which will happen before inflation is completely solved. But once we realize that inflation is under control, those mortgage rates will start coming back down. And then you're going to have home prices that have not been escalating like they were, and you'll have lower mortgage rates. That will be the time to step in the market.